Hi, this is Jim Campbell, Principal Percussionist of the Lexington Philharmonic. I've been with Lexphil since 1985 and I enjoyed all the variety of music we play, from classical to pops music. If you've had the pleasure of being at a Lexphil concert, you notice right away there's something different about the percussion section. All the musicians on stage are seated except the percussionists. You'll see them standing as they play. Why do we do that? Because sometimes we have to play more than one instrument. We have to make quick movements from one instrument to another. So we need to be standing to do that and not drawing attention to ourselves, constantly going up and down in our chairs. Well, one of the reasons that I am attracted to percussion instruments is because of the variety of sounds you can make. In a typical Lexphil concert, I may play as many as 10 instruments. And those include keyboard instruments like xylophone and chimes, maybe snare drum and bass drum, all kinds of instruments that we need to get through a concert. So moving around on stage helps us get from one setup to another. And it's also one of the reasons percussionists enjoy playing with an orchestra. They get a chance to play different instruments on every selection, sometimes every movement. One of my favorite instruments to play is also one with a long history. And I'll talk about the history of this instrument in a minute, but I'm also going to take you through the basic techniques of playing this. And this may be something you take for granted when you see it on stage. That's the triangle, because it's really easy to make a sound on a triangle, but not so easy when you have to make musical decisions about what colors you want to elicit from the triangle, timbres, the duration, and we're going to talk about the playing techniques and the history in this next segment. The triangle has said to have its origins as early as 3000 BC in ancient Egypt, and the instrument it descended from is called a sistrum, an instrument used for religious practice, and it makes a nice shimmering sound when it's shaken. Well, now, the artwork that existed in the Middle Ages illustrates the triangle as something like this. 3 sides with rings on the bottom. And these rings were probably used to help amplify the rattle that you heard in the sistrum and help it project across great distances. In Turkey, this instrument evolved into a noise-making instrument used by the Janissary during times of war. So they needed a loud signaling device and also a way to help the troops march in time. Well, by Europe in the late 18th century, this instrument found its way with and without the rings in the orchestral music in Europe. One of the earliest uses of the triangle by a European composer was Mozart, who in 1792 utilized the triangle in his score of The Abduction from the Seraglio. The triangle is really 3 parts. It's the instrument body itself, it's a clip or the suspension device, which you hold it from, and it's also a beater. Now, I've been in the back of many music rooms in the public schools, and I've seen situations like this. Students are trying to play the triangle, and they can't. It doesn't make a good sound. They have to chase it around because the cord's too long. It's suspended from, in this case, a shoestring, and the beater is actually tied on. But because this triangle is a high-quality instrument, this is an expensive triangle, but because the suspension device imparts a lot of muting and muffling, and you get a lot of tickiness or contact sound from the beater, the triangle doesn't live up to its potential to make a beautiful sound. So let's look first at some of the suspension devices for triangle. Now, let's look at some assortment of beaters used to play the triangle. Now let's combine all these elements together to show you how to actually approach the triangle and make a quality sound. The material I use on my clip or my holder is basically fishing line. That's what I'm using here to suspend the triangle. It doesn't impart any muffling or any muting on the triangle unless the triangle ring and have a tonal beauty till its full potential. Now I'm going to hold the triangle by making a letter C or a U, taking my index finger, placing it on the top of these three fingers, putting my thumb for support at the back, and then I have a nice control, nice easy control of my height that I want to play at, and I want to keep the music in sight. I want to keep the conductor in sight and maybe other section members of the percussion area. And I'm going to be able to control that triangle with this sort of a grip. With a clip, similar thing. Thumb in the back, three fingers underneath, finger on the side, and I've got full control here to be able to play that triangle. I keep my arm close to my side, not out like this. That's pretty fatiguing. I don't want to raise my shoulders. I want to have the triangle to be able to adjust it up and down and move like an elevator. So I keep arms in tight. Even by my beater, I'm not going to hold it out. I'm going to have it right here. Let's take a closer look at the beaters that we strike the triangle with. There's two basic shapes when it comes to beaters. There's a straight rod, and there's also a two-step rod. Two parts to it. You've got the striking zone and the handle. And when you use the straight rod, sometimes it imparts a contact sound or a tick because of its shape. When I compare that to the two-step, you don't get as much tone, and you get maybe much more of an attack that you don't want to hear. The triangle actually blossoms a little bit better when you use a shape beater like this or the torpedo shape that we showed you earlier. It's important to know that the triangle has two modes of vibration. There's a swing mode, so when I strike the triangle, it's moving this way, opposite of the direction of my strike. And it's also, because of its suspension, has a little bit of a twist mode. So that swing mode and that twist mode. Now you can change the color of the triangle depending on where and how you strike it to give one or more of those modes maybe more importance. For instance, if I want to get a lot of overtones, I want a rich, vibrant sound from the triangle. Let's say I'm playing a section with the brass and I want to blend in with those brass. I'm going to play where I do the strike on the side, add an angle to the triangle, not perpendicular, but at an angle so that I can get a twist and I can get some forward motion. Falling into the triangle, I get this kind of sound. I can also get that sort of tone, a darker tone, by playing on the bottom, again, striking at an angle. Compare that. So right away you see on the bottom at an angle is a lot darker. Darker overtones are really brought out. Now, if I just use my striking on the side and I play with that swing motion in mind, that swing, I get this. It's a lot clearer tone, isn't it? Not as much complex vibrations. So from the same instrument, depending on the angle and the place you strike, you can get a lot of different complex overtones that create a special tone color. And that tone color can be used in for the piece of music you're playing. For instance, if I need clarity, I have a fast rhythmic part, I might play up here straight into a perpendicular motion with the triangle. Because it's a fast rhythmic part, there's a lot more clarity than I would get down here. It just rings so much and it's so dark, it's really hard for the clarity of the passage to come out. So that's true that way. If I want to play rhythmically or roll faster parts, well, you can use the same strategy. So playing in the corner at striking opposite sides with a quick up and down motion gives me clarity and rhythm. Because I'm hitting and striking the triangle in a motion that's perpendicular to the rod, I get that clarity. Now, if I want to do a roll and I want some sustain, I want the overtones to kind of blend and build up and blossom, then I'm going to do my roll in the corner, but at angles. So depending on what you're playing, you can use your angles to be able to get the color and the clarity and articulation you need for the triangle. Another playing technique involves suspending the triangle from your music stand with 2 clips in the corners. And that allows you to play with 2 mallets on rapid passages such as this. Interpreting percussion takes a lot of creativity and research. And I mean that because composers always tell you when to start the sound, when to play the triangle, but they never tell you where to stop it. So playing a triangle, it's going to continue to ring out for almost a minute, maybe more, depending on how the volume is. But composers don't tell you, they just strike the triangle here. So even if you see a rest after a triangle, it doesn't necessarily mean that's where to stop the sound. It's just a notation that's easy for the composer to figure out all the notes in the bar. So how do you know when to stop the sound? You have to listen. You have to do your research. Listen to the part. Who am I playing with? What color, what instruments am I highlighting? Is this an effect? Is this a solo passage? Do I need to be clear? Do I need to blend with other instruments? And listen to the instruments that you think you're playing with and muffle when they do, when they stop their sound. Or go look at the score. There's your research. Ask the conductor if you can see the score, or go to your library and check it out and see when you see the triangle, who else enters with that triangle and how long do they play. The triangle can be ring indefinitely. It doesn't have to stop when other instruments stop. There's a blossom to the sound that adds beauty to every passage. So when you stop the triangle, when you want to stop it on purpose, how do you do that? That's where this grip comes in handy, because I've got fingers, a thumb and 3 fingers available to stop the sound. I can gradually bring my hand together, or I can do it quickly. But what you don't want to do is do it so quick that it sounds distorted. You still want that beauty of sound. And it helps that my striking technique to help get that sound is one where I think I'm falling into the instrument. So I describe my striking technique as falling into the instrument. How many times, if you've been to a concert and you have the triangle player, you see the triangle player in the back and they're waiting and they're look, yes, I got to play, got 20 bars rest, I'm getting ready to play, I'm going to play my part, and I'm going to wait for the conductor's cue, and okay, and now they're getting nervous. Here it goes. I'm going to play. Ready? Now. and they miss because they're trying to hit something. Don't try to hit something, fall into the instrument to get that strike. I just fall. That helps my arms stay relaxed. My muscles aren't tight. I'm not weight. I just fall into the instrument, and that helps elicit that beautiful sound. Percussionists need to develop an awareness of the sound that's around them, so they know if the triangle's going to blend with the groups that are playing, or if it's going to stick out, or if it's going to have the clarity, if it's going to be bright because you're playing with high instruments, or if it's going to be dark because you're playing with lower instruments. So there's a lot of selections, a lot of choices, and usually you have a few triangles to choose from. Anything from this, one of the tiniest triangles there is, very subtle, very bright, to one that I inherited from my dad when he calls in for dinner. Come and get the triangle. Thanks for listening. Hope you learned something today. And please contact the Lex Phil office if you have any questions on what I presented today. Thank you.